Well, welcome back into the Mid-Norfolk garden. You may remember me planting some really cheap tulip bulbs at the very beginning of this year. Actually, they were supposedly planted between October and December, but we were buying these cheap and popping them into this area with some feed. We were hoping they were going to catch up the remaining tulips that are already planted in this border, and you can see that they're flowering at the same time, but this is supposed to be a variety that's standing between 12 and 14 inches, and as you can see, these really are more like Robin Hoods. They're standing at the most 6-7 inches above the soil level. This little clump that we planted put actually 5 bulbs in there, and one must have rotted out or be blind. Oh no, it's still coming on at the front. It is just going to be later. But what we have got is stunted tulips this year. Now, I'm not too worried about that. We popped some feed into the hole, and I'm hoping that these will grow on successfully, and as long as we can weed around them, and you can see the bindweed in this border coming up. This is a quite wild herbaceous border which is underplanted under buddleias and roses, and we've got some ribes in here as well, but it's also under a relatively young but still substantial copper beech, which is just starting to come out. So it's not the ideal area for bulbs to do particularly well, but I'm hoping these will hold their own. The ones at the back, those orange ones we showed you, have been in probably for about 7 or 8 years, and while they haven't flourished, they've certainly kept their own, albeit at risk now of having their heads knocked off by, yes, you leave them well alone. Let's go and show you the potted version of this, because we also had some left over which we popped into pots, and they're just coming into flower also. Well, here are the 3 pots that we completely planted up at the same time, and you can see they've not done nearly as well as the ones that were planted out directly into the soil. They are going to flower, but they're even more stunted, probably no more than around 4 or 5 inches tall, and one pot's doing very well, but the front 2 are a little later. Now, these were in a cold position over winter and only just brought round into this position when we saw some colour forming in the buds. I think they're going to need to be planted out pretty quickly, and my plan for these is to thicken up the borders where we've got the cutting garden tulips, which have been so nice from the barn this year. And this is that area just in front of the barn. We sit and watch these most days, and they've been absolutely spectacular. Varieties have just been put in here from pots that have finished and not found a permanent home in the garden. The idea was to have a cutting garden here, but actually it's far nicer with tulips. They tend to last much better if they're in a cold environment, and if you can position them even in mixed plantings like this, they're absolutely wonderful at this time of year, giving a really good display here in Norfolk. It's been a good year for bulbs though, I think. Not too warm, they've lasted well, and last summer's hot weather and early spring and relatively mild winter has allowed them to grow really well. It's not been bad for them in bud form either. These are still standing. If we're going to get heavy rain and frost, then these big doubles tend to show it pretty early, but this year they've just been brilliant.